Hello and welcome to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. In this session, I'll be looking once again at a general reading for everybody's birthday month, and this time it will be looking at what will happen to you in April. I hope you've been enjoying this particular series. I know not many people have been following it, but they are rather fun to do, and if you do find some value out of them, please feel free to leave a comment. And if you don't find any value in them, comments also would be highly accepted. Thank you. So let's now examine what is your April going to be like. I pre-shuffled the cards as usual, but I am gradually learning to shuffle. A colour reading for people born in May for April 2025. The energy that you bring into April from March is purple on blue. The energy that permeates most of April is purple on brown, and the energy with which you will be leaving April is black on pink, and the underlying energy is green on brown. For those of you born in May, you'll begin the month with a situation in which all of the calm and peace and tranquility and the things that are organized and ordered within your life have been tossed in the air, and they're all upside down and everywhere. You no longer are in charge of all of the things that you had hoped you would be. You're no longer in charge of the things that you had hoped would happen for you. There's been a lot of disruption to your peace of mind. Blue in the internal world is always about a duty and a need for being able to understand and cope with change. Purple in the real world is that change. It's a disruption. It's healing in some respects, but it's also a major disruption of what was beforehand. So there's been a situation in your life coming from March into April in which all of the things that you thought you knew, all of the things you thought you could do, the skills that you had, suddenly have been tossed in the air and they've come to nothing. By the middle of April, that feeling of everything's tossed up in the air and disrupted, and there's been major change and possibly even major calamity in your life will persist. But now, instead of the need for being able to find peace and quiet and some sort of order and organization in your life, you now have the need to plan. Brown in the internal world is all about having to find a way of accomplishing those things that you wanted to achieve in the real world. Brown is the color of planning, of motivation, of practical skills. And because they're in the internal world, they aren't there at the moment. They have become a need, a requirement, something that you are searching for and hoping to find as you traverse through the month of April. But in the real world, the purple keeps disrupting all of those plans. Everything that you had planned is no longer coming to fruition. You come up with a new plan or a new hope, a new wish, and that also falls apart. So there's this continuous cycle throughout the majority of April that prevents you from achieving those things that you actually set out to achieve. By the end of April, there will be a feeling of exhaustion. Pink in the internal world is vulnerability. You can't continue doing things the way that you've been doing them in the past by hard work or by simply learning new skills and getting on with the job. Because everything you try, the purple in the real world tends to disrupt. So there's a need to step back for a while. The vulnerability internally is not just an exhaustion of physical skills, but it's also an exhaustion of mental capacities. In the real world, there will be need for time out. You need to get in touch with your inner self, and in fact, you're going to give yourself that. It also, unfortunately, is a vulnerability to some form of issue or circumstance that will simply take you out of the picture for a while. So there is a danger in this combination of illness. There is a danger of illness in this situation too. This is because purple is also a color of healing. It has to do with vulnerability or exposure to illness-producing situations. And here, by the end of April, that will definitely have become part of your everyday. You won't feel like doing anything much, and in the real world, you will have shut down. You can't do anything else. You are exhausted physically and also mentally and spiritually. Is it possible to move on? Well, the underlying energy here is green on brown. Brown, like up here, which was all about planning and getting your practical skills organized, all the ducks in a row, making sure that you know what to do and how to do it, continues as the underlying energy. And in the real world, there are other opportunities, new things that you can try and do. But do these new things actually allow you to find your way through this drama here, find your way through this ability to deal with disruption by simply just getting on with the job, or deal with disruption by creating new plans and new goals, or dealing with a shutdown because you've run out of energy. The opportunities are there, and pink and green are opposites on the color wheel. Pink is an internal section, green is in the real world. So they're not just opposites on the color wheel, they're also opposites within your abilities. One is the pink, that is internally, it's a drive. Externally, you have green, which is the actual thing that you do. So here we have, in this combination of green and brown, not just the need for new ideas, new plans, and new ways of doing things, new motivations, new opportunities also exist in the real world. And those opportunities are ones that you need not only to recognize, but also to grasp and to run with. Because when you do so, that underlying energy tends to work on this disruption of this purple that we have up here, all of these dramatic changes that are occurring. At the same time, they also work on this need to just have a rest, take time out. So how do we do this? Well, let's examine the colors that are missing. You have black, but no white. There is no red or yellow, but you do have green, you have blue, you have brown, there's no orange or grey, but you do have purple and pink, but no cyan. So these colours here represent the skills and attributes that you are working with in the month of April. These are the ones that are represented here in these colour cards. These are the skills that you know how to use and you are using. These ones over here, the white, orange, red, grey, yellow, and cyan, are the skills that you are not currently using. They're the ones in which you are, in fact, unable to access for whatever reason. So the idea is that you look at them and determine which is the most appealing colour, and then which is the least appealing colour. And by choosing those two most and the least appealing colors and putting them into your life as a visual hit every day throughout the month of April, you'll find that you are not only incorporating those particular skills into your life, but you are incorporating all of the ones that are missing in some form or another. And so that combination of whatever those two colors are will in fact impinge upon not just how you're entering April, but also will have an effect on how April continues to travel throughout the month and how you will feel towards the end of the month. But most importantly, they will impinge upon the underlying energy to cause you to use these in a different way, because opportunities and plans are not preset. You don't know exactly what they're going to be just yet. So incorporating these colors will enable you to look for different opportunities, maybe make different sorts of plans, do something that is outside the realm of the skills that you normally would use, and end up not coming back full circle here, but somewhere else. Are you going to do it? Are you up for the challenge? A reading for June, people, for the month of April 2025. The energy that June people bring into the month of April are orange on pink. What April will bring for them throughout the month is brown on brown, and they will leave the month black on black. And the underlying energy is green on brown. Before I begin, there's some interesting things happening here. Two of the cards, or two of the color combinations, are the same top and bottom. And it's very highly unusual to get one, because there are only 12 of them in a pack of over 80 cards. But to get two of them in the same reading shows that there is something very important happening here. So for those of you born in June, April is not going to be an easy month, just looking at this combination here. Let's begin. Orange on pink is what you're bringing into the month of April with you from March. Pink in the internal world is always vulnerability. It's the baby color. So it has to do with your not being in control of everything in your life. You need things, but you are not able to give them to yourself. And so in the real world, where you have orange, what is happening is that you spend your time crying out for those things. If you can imagine that a baby is, or a newborn thing, is not just vulnerable, but when contented, when happy, is quite a pleasant creature to have around. But this is the discontented baby. This is the infant internally, that is the person who is not able to be in charge of their own life, where things are happening to you that you have no control over. In the real world, you're making a lot of noise, a lot of crying, a lot of yelling, a lot of stamping of your feet, trying to create change. But that also requires you to put yourself out there. Orange is the color of confidence, of control in the real world, because you are after something very specific. But how can you create that when internally you have very little energy and very little control anyway? So the discontented baby tends to do a lot of shrieking and crying and being upset, but doesn't have much in the way of ideas or skills internally with which to deal with those crises in the real world. They have instead to rely on others to do things for them. By the middle of April, this will have changed to a situation where we have brown on brown, straight through and through ability to not only decide what you want, In other words, it's manifestation, but also developing those skills that are necessary for you to be able to put those manifestations into your life. You will be creating new ideas, new goals, new aspirations. There'll be new motivations that activate what it is that you will be looking for in life. In the real world, you're actually learning those skills, honing your techniques, making sure that you have all of the requisite abilities that are necessary for you to attain the things that you wish for internally as your goals. And together, that brown on brown enables you to drive yourself forward. This is a really massive color combination for getting things done. You have a purpose in life, you've determined what that is, and now you're going to get out there and get on with it. You know how to achieve what you want because you have all of the skills that are necessary in order to do that. But by the end of April, all of that will have changed, because now instead of all of that purpose and the go-getting that you had back here in the brown on brown phase, the black on black phase is a complete capitulation to the real world. You've run out of everything. All of your energies, all of your demands, all of the practical skills, all of the ideas, the plans, the motivations have come to a stage where nothing much has happened. And because nothing much has happened, there is a feeling internally of a great deal of disappointment. You're feeling a little depressed, sad, definitely not as though everything has been going your way. Back here, the brown on brown is cause for optimism because you know what you want and you know how to achieve it. But by the end of April, that optimism has failed, and instead you're finding yourself having to withdraw, to move away from all of the situations that you were involved in here. So if this was some sort of social movement, for example, you won't be participating anymore in that at the end of the month. Instead, this is time for healing. You've been wounded in the process of obtaining what you wanted. Now it's time to step back and to allow yourself to just simply get over it. The underlying energy here is green on brown. The very brown motivation and drive and enthusiasm that you have here for creating something new in your life, your goals and aspirations, are part of your underlying energy. In the real world, you've had lots of opportunities. There are many things that you can do, many directions you can go, many ways of changing your ideas about how things should be. Because green is also the color of values. So the motivations that you had here to enable you to learn new skills now become motivations to potentially look at the world through new glasses, through new eyes. Is this still what I want for myself? Is the question that has to be asked here. That green on brown has been involved in every stage of the trip through April. Green and pink are opposites on the color wheel. They're also, in this situation, pink internally, green externally. Together, that combination has to do with changing things, coming full circle, starting off again all over the place. Orange and brown are very similar in color tones. They actually sit next to one another in terms of the way in which we learnt colors. But the orange and brown is, I have motivations, and in the real world, it's always a bit of a drama to get my ideas and my values and the things that I want out of life accepted by others. The green has some sort of impingement also upon this stage of high energy where you're busy doing things and learning new things so that you can make the changes that you want. But by the time we get to the end of April, that's pretty much subsumed by this need to withdraw and get away. So how do we enhance this underlying energy? Well, for that, we need to look at the colors that are missing. You have black, but there's no white. There's no red or yellow, but you do have green. There's no blue. You have brown. You have orange. You don't have grey or purple, but you do have pink, and also cyan is missing. So these colours here represent the skills and attributes that you have available to you and are using throughout the month of April. This is your usual way of doing things. These colours here represent those skills and attributes that you are not currently using, but they could be of assistance. So let's see what we can do with them. If you choose the one colour that is most appealing, and then the colour that is least appealing from this group, you will find that by giving yourself a visual shot of these every day, by making sure that you see those colours, you will find that you start to incorporate all of these colours, all of these skills into your repertoire. And because you have black on black here as the outcome at the end of the month, black is an absorber of every colour. So you can actually easily incorporate all of these into your repertoire and hide them. And by hiding them, you'll be ready to charge into May, totally different person. Are you up for the challenge? And here we have a colour reading for people born in the month of July for April 2025. All right. The energy that they bring into the month is pink on pink. The energy that continues throughout the month is black on red, and the energy with which they leave the month is red on grey. And the underlying energy is white on purple. So let's see what that says. For those of you born in July, you enter the month of April with pink over pink. Pink on pink. Whenever you have the same colour, top and bottom, that is in the real world as well as in the internal world, there is a limitation to the way in which you can function. The energy for people born in July that you bring into April is one of vulnerability. Pink is the colour of the baby, and it is a universal aspect of anything that is newly born, hatched, or whatever, that it is not only cute, but also in need of a great deal of nurturing and care. And so too are you as you enter the month. When we have the same colour top and bottom, that is in the real world as well as in the internal world, there is a problem. In that there is no ability to act in any way other than the urges inside create for you. And when one is vulnerable and in that baby-like state, there is no energy. There is no ability to get out and do things for yourself, because the need is one of needing assistance from others. At the same time, having that pink in the external world means that even if you try, you are doomed to fail, because again, there is no energy. You need to wait and accept assistance from others. The warning here, though, is that that assistance from others is not something that you can actively choose. In order to accept assistance, you must take whatever is offered, just as the baby must take on whatever energy or assistance or care is offered to it. If that is not to your liking, you don't have an option to do anything about it. It is a problem in that because you're feeling this way as you enter into April, it means that you need to do something drastic in order to change that vulnerability into something that comes close to you being able to do things for yourself. And we find that exact thing happening as you look in further down into April. Red in the internal world is a sudden upsurge of energy. Often it's an upsurge of anger or frustration or some other energetic thing that activates you internally and makes you quite agitated and wanting to get out and do things. It's very undirected, however, because it's all on the internal unconscious level. You know you're agitated, you know you need to do something, you know that in the past you've been stymied and unable to do anything about your own situation, but now you're in a situation where, yes, the energy is there, so what are you going to do about it? Well, black in the real world simply says nothing. You're not going to do anything. You're being halted. You're being prevented from doing anything. Not because you don't have the energy, not because the desire is missing, not because you need the assistance of others like you did back here, but because black means time to stop. Stop. Start thinking about the things that you need. Start looking for alternatives. Start doing those things that are necessary for you to reconsider your environment, reconsider your actions, reconsider your relationships even. So black on red is a halt to the way in which you normally would interact with people, that is, by accepting assistance regardless of what type it is. And instead, this is a situation in which you have very strong feelings about something, but in the real world, there is a hindrance to your being able to express it. As we walk further into April, you'll find that the red goes from the unconscious into the conscious state, into the everyday world, into the real world. And that can be quite dangerous, because when we have red expressed in the real world, it often means risk-taking. It means taking chances that you normally would not consider. It means being assertive, aggressive, perhaps even spilling your own blood in the effort to do what? Well, in this situation, you've got grey underneath. So what's driving all this energy is your own confusion. Whereas back here, you were unable to do anything about that frustration, about that energy that you have internally, because there is some sort of external force that is preventing you from doing so. Now that external force has been forced inward and has been lightened, which is what grey is. It's an enlightened form of black. And now you're confused, uncertain, concerned about not knowing exactly what to do next. But now you have all of the energy, you have all of the ability to make a change in the world. You're just not sure what direction you should be going in. Eventually, though, underlying all of this, we are affected by white on purple. Now, white in the real world is the ultimate clarity that emerges out of grey. Everything and anything and nothing at all. White can't be seen. It energizes everything, as does white light in the world, but at the same time, it's fairly indiscriminate in the way in which it does so. White is all about massive opportunities, new beginnings, experimentation, finding a different way of doing things, becoming enlightened. And what are you becoming enlightened about? Well, internally, you have purple. Purple has to do with making drastic change, catastrophic change even if necessary. It comes out of a drive to make things better or fix things, but in order to do so, first you have to destroy them. Now, the interesting thing about white on purple is that in the tarot, this particular combination represents the card called the Devil. That is a big warning sign. White on purple is all about doing things because that's the way you've always done them. It's about addictions. It's about taking chances based on your immediate spur of the moment ideas rather than considering carefully what the outcomes are going to be or the consequences of your actions. In many ways, that white on purple is linked to these reds up here. The internal red, which is the frustration to get something done, and the external red, which is I'm just going to do it and I don't care what the consequences are. This is embodied in the white on purple. And because it has that energy of addiction, it means that you have a tendency to go round and round and round doing the same things over and over and over again. And April will be just one of those months where things will tend to come full circle again, provided you don't do anything to change it. So what can you do to change the outcome in April? Well, for that, we need to look at the colours that are missing. Well, first off, you have black, you have white, you have an abundance of red, there is no yellow or green, there's no blue or brown, you don't have orange, but you do have grey and purple and pink, but there's no cyan. Now, these colours here represent the skills and attributes that you are currently using. So in the month of April, for those of you born in July, these skills here are the ones that can be seen in this line here. Black, white, red, grey, grey being a form of black and white, purple and pink. Pink being a form of red, and purple being closely associated with both red and black. So you have a rather limited repertoire of what you can do in order to facilitate your travel through the month of April. These colours over here, though, the yellow and brown, green and orange, blue and cyan, represent those skills and attributes that you're currently not using. They're the ones that are important because if you were to incorporate some of those into your skill set for April, you'll find yourself traveling somewhere else. So the idea is that you choose from amongst these the one color that is most appealing and the one color that is least appealing. And when you do so, incorporate those into your life in some way. Give yourself a visual shot of those two colors on a daily basis, and because they express the extremes of what is missing from your color repertoire, they also incorporate all the other colors. So you'll find yourself doing things differently. When you are feeling vulnerable and unable to say no to whatever comes your way, you might find yourself doing something differently. Maybe you will be able to say no or resist or maybe move away. When you find yourself frustrated with being restricted in some way, you might find yourself being able to create some sort of peace and quiet out of that time out that you have given yourself. When you find yourself uncertain about how to act in any given situation, you might find yourself instead being able to find a choice, a different way of doing whatever it is that you need to do and heading in that direction. And altogether, this devil energy of the white on purple will enable you then, instead of repeating the same mistakes, allow you to make some real choices based on some different ways of doing things. Are you up for the challenge? This is a colour reading for those people born in August for their travels through April 2025. The energy that you bring with you from March into April is black on yellow. The energy that permeates most of April is white on brown. And the energy that you leave April is grey on black. And the underlying energy is black on brown. Okay, so let's investigate these a little further. Black on yellow is nature's universal signal of danger. Wasps, bees, snakes, some spiders, most things that are venomous will have some element of black and yellow as a warning, if they carry any warnings at all. Yellow in the internal world, in your subconscious world, is all about having to learn something new, the need for more knowledge, more information, more ways of getting data. But in the real world, the black prevents that from happening. It's like there is an overwhelming abundance of information, but you yourself are unable to discern just which bits are valuable and true and which are not. So as you come into the month of April, you're finding yourself at loggerheads. You're finding yourself overwhelmed with data, with information, and internally needing to sort through it all, but having difficulty in doing so because as fast as you sort through what is available, more comes crashing in. It's like there's a never-ending supply, only you don't have the wherewithal to be able to deal with it all. By the middle of April, that black has completely reversed itself and become white. Suddenly there is illumination. The truth starts to come clear. And as it does so, internally you have moved from a state of yellow, seeking of information, to a state of brown, where you are now looking for a way to create the sorts of outcomes that you want. So brown is all about motivations, practical skills, desires, hopes, dreams. And in that respect, it is something that you find yourself needing, but in the real world, there are so many opportunities, so many different ways of expressing those needs and desires, and also those practical skills, that it's almost as bad as the standstill back here, because you have too many choices. But those choices also feed back into that brown, that you are able to create different outcomes because you have so many different ideas, so many wishes, so many practical skills that you can draw upon to face any challenge that may appear in the real world. By the end of April, however, black has returned, only this time it returns in the internal world. And here we have a state of depression. Whereas back here, the black indicated a closing off of yourself from the real world externally, because the external world either didn't allow you to continue out into it, or you yourself are unable to delve into what's happening in the external world. Here, the black has gone into the internal world. And now, all of that information that was available, that you've now clarified, now hits you like a ton of bricks. And suddenly, you're finding yourself having to withdraw because, goodness me, how do you cope with all that data? How do you cope with all the things that you have learnt over the month of April? Things that you didn't realize existed. And in the real world, both black and white, which appeared here as preventatives and then explosive energies, combine to form grey, which is uncertainty, confusion, and other cloudy things that you cannot see clearly. So you've had to withdraw. You've got this feeling of needing to get away from all of the uncertainties that have been engendered as a result of this black and white of facts, non-facts, reality, non-reality. All of these things that have impinged upon your consciousness previously, both as a way of gathering data, but also as a way of creating goals for yourself. Now you are in a situation where I need to close off because I don't understand what's happening in the world. There are too many things, too many experiences, too many competing energies for you to deal with effectively. The underlying energy through all of this, however, is more of that black. Black appears 3 times in this reading. Now that's really unusual because black is not a common color, because it always represents some sort of withdrawal from a situation. Just like here, where the withdrawal was from the knowledge that you are gaining, just so much of it you couldn't cope. Here, the withdrawal is from the options that you have, the practical skills, the goals, the aspirations. You could do anything you wanted to with your life. But what do you go about and do? What is it that you are able to set about doing? Because in the real world, every time you try something, there's been some sort of blockage. Now, the blockage up here was as a result of new knowledge. Here, the blockage has been cleared, but the ambitions and goals and the practical skills that come from the underlying energy are dissipated in so many different directions that you've got hardly any energy left. Then we come over here, where once again that closing down has happened, but now it's in the internal world, and because of that, the external world is clouded and unclear as a result of all of this enlightenment from here and the closing down of information from here, both of which are overwhelming. So how do we manage this closing down of your ambitions? You still want to attain things. You still want to succeed at certain goals, because that's why brown is in the internal world. If this was reversed the other way, it would be a matter of I'm closed off, and in the external world I've still got things I have to do, but I'm not really sure I want to prioritize them. Here you have a lot of different goals, but in the real world, where are you going with them? You haven't really made up your mind. So manifestation is a real issue here throughout the month of April. How do we deal with this? Well, let's examine those colors that are missing. You have black, you have white. There's no red, but you do have yellow. There's no green or blue, but you do have brown. There is no orange. You have grey. There is no purple or pink or cyan. Now, these colours here represent the skills and attributes that occur for you throughout the month of April. These are the things that you can do and often do. And as a result of those particular skills, you find yourself traveling in a circular motion. You come in with some of them, you work your way through others as a result of the underlying energies that are available to you, and you end up going back to where you started. You can see here that the black and black are both in the real world. Yellow and brown, although different colors with different meanings, nevertheless do have some similarities. You need yellow to make brown. So it's a cycle. And in order to break that cycle, we need now to move to these colors that are missing from that repertoire. Red, orange, green, purple, blue, pink, and cyan. And those 7 colors represent all of the skills and attributes that you're not currently using. So the idea is that you choose from amongst these the one color that appeals the most, and then the one color that is the least appealing, and put those 2 colors into your everyday so that you get a visual shot of them every single day. When you do that, you are priming your unconscious mind to accept all of those skills that are intermediary between the best and the worst colours, and including those into your subconscious mind also impinges upon this underlying energy, so that things start to become different for you. You're no longer doing exactly the same things over and over and over again. That cycle is broken, and instead you can head in a different direction to obtain different outcomes and different results. Are you up for the challenge? And there we have a colour analysis for all of the birthday months for the month of April 2025. I know not many of you have actually been listening to these, but they are interesting to me because I think of the people that I know when I'm doing each colour combination, when I do each month's reading, and when I speak to them afterwards. A lot of this is very, very spot on. So maybe it will be for you too. Certainly, I'd love to hear from you. Comment in the little areas below. If you like the format, please give it a like. Maybe even consider subscribing if you're new here. Otherwise, I'll leave you with it. And may the colours of your life flow into all sorts of areas of abundance, joy, and happiness. Bye.